بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, anybody, male or female, who does good deeds and is a believer will enter paradise and will not be wronged by as much as a dip in a date stone. It's important that we always start with a verse from the Holy Quran in our majalis and our sessions because this is the key element of majalis, which our entire session should try and be focused around. But to start off, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone who has came today, my dear brothers and sisters. Adam Allah ajurana wa ajurakum, and send my condolences to you all and to all of the mu'mineen, the ulama, and to our awaited Imam al-Mahdi ajallah faraj al-Sharif, and the days of grief which are approaching us, the days which we come close to the martyrdom anniversary of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And this tragedy that has befallen us with the martyrdom of Amir al-Mu'mineen is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards us to see how we can learn from it and to see how we can also draw lessons from his martyrdom and from his lifetime as well. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said that Ali is with the truth and the truth is with Ali. Ali ma'al haqq wal haqq ma'a Ali. The truth revolves around him wherever he turns. And so, as you mentioned, Brother Zerez, today, inshallah, what we can try and talk about is a more fresh perspective on the concept of masculinity in Islam, particularly through the lens of the Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And of course, one of the best figures which we can use to talk about masculinity and what it entails is none other than Amir al-Mu'mineen himself. So inshallah it'll be a fresh approach, and I'll try not to take too much time because Sayyid Haider is as I mentioned, a true gem for our community, and it will be fascinating to hear what he has to say. So I would recommend for everyone who's here to take notes during his lecture, and inshallah any points you have, feel free to ask him at the end. Now, as you all know, being university students and of course living in the West, you will be experiencing a range and a variety of different sort of, modern ideologies, philosophies, and religions as well, which are at the same time competing to try and set the tone and define what it means to be a man. And it is now at this stage more, than ever, critically important for us as Muslim men and women as well, to understand masculinity as it was understood by the Holy Prophet and by the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam as well. And unlike some of the theories of masculinity, which you often hear about, whereby certain individuals try to declare themselves as sort of mainstream masculinity spokespeople, promoting this alpha male concept, which basically entails having domination over other men and women. We as Muslims believe in the opposite of this. We do not adhere to this ideology. We do not adhere to these beliefs. Our belief and our focus should be on recognizing that masculinity in Islam is for a man to fulfill good character traits and to carry himself in a dignified way, as is taught by his religion. And so our first port of call when we try and look at masculinity and get a brief understanding of what these traits are, which are necessary for someone to be masculine, is to go to the Holy Quran. Our first port of call is to always refer back to this perfect source of information and wisdom because it contains all of the answers that we need. Now, when the word rajul, meaning man, or rijal, plural, meaning men, is used in the Quran, there's usually a qualification which is attached as a reason for that designation. There's a purpose and there's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses these words. So we'll quickly go over two verses from the Quran, but as you'll see from these two verses, and multiple other verses which are included in the Quran, there's certain themes which jump out. There's the themes of truthfulness, the themes of honor, self-restraint, resilience, purity, and guardianship as well. It's an important point. And these are all highlighted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as examples of ethical behavior, which are consistent amongst men of God, people who are close with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first verse starts off by saying, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. There are rijal, meaning men, true men, among the believers who honored their pledge to Allah. Some of them have fulfilled it by death, and some are still waiting. They have not changed in the least. The other verse states, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Rijal, meaning true men, who are not distracted, either by commerce or profit from remembering God, keeping up their prayer and paying the prescribed alms, fearing a day when hearts and eyes will turn over. So, of course, whenever we have religious discourse or whenever we try and understand anything in this world and how it works, we have our sources of knowledge which we derive information and interpretation from. And as we know through the famous statement of the Holy Prophet himself, these two sources of knowledge are first and foremost the Holy Quran itself, and then we have the teachings of the Prophet and his Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And because time is limited, we could have gone into the Quran a little bit more, but to sort of speed things up a little bit and to try and fit into today's topic a little bit more, we'll try and just go into the sort of the concept of masculinity relating to Imam Ali alayhi salam and how he views the concept, not just through his words, but also through his actions as well. But more specifically, before we do that, we need to try and have a definition of masculinity because we need to know what we're talking about. And of course, there's nobody better than, the library of the Ahlul Bayt, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, to tell us what masculinity really is. And this following hadith, which I'll narrate to you, comes to us from him, where he sort of delves into this concept of masculinity in a little bit more detail. Now, Muhammad bin Musa bin al-Mutawakkil narrates to us. He says, Ali ibn al-Husayn as-Sa'ad Abadi narrated to us through various transmitters from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, who has said that people mentioned chivalry around the Imam. And so he said to them, do you think that chivalry is immorality and indecency? No. Rather, chivalry and masculinity are not but feeding much, taking little, doing good, and withholding from harm. Everything else is evil and immoral. So the Imam asks the people around him to try and get an understanding of their knowledge, to see if they know the answer to his question, and then to teach them a lesson as well. He says to them, what is masculinity? And of course, they reply back in the presence of the Imam, saying that we do not know. The Imam then explains it. He says, masculinity is, by Allah, when a man puts his brothers before himself. He says that there are two types of masculinities. The first type is masculinity whilst present, and the second type is masculinity whilst traveling. And we'll break down what the Imam means by that. He says, as for masculinity whilst present, it means reciting the Quran, sticking to the mosques, walking to the needs of the brothers, and being good to the servants. For this is what brings joy to the friend and anguish to the enemy. And as for the masculinity whilst traveling, it is increasing in provisions and giving it to those who surround you and who are with you, keeping the secrets of the people after you have separated from them, and being light-hearted in a way which does not anger Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the Imam continues on and he says, by him who truly raised my grandfather as a prophet, surely Allah will give sustenance to the worshipper in proportion to his masculinity. Aid comes down from heaven in proportion to his masculinity. Now, that shows a little bit in terms of what the Imam defines masculinity as, and these godly traits and these types of behavior which he expects of people, particularly Muslim men, to be able to embody. And through this, they will be able to gain this sense of masculinity. But from this description that the Imam gives, do you see him narrating masculinity as a negative thing? Is it something which he condemns? No, it's the opposite, actually. The Imam goes into detail with us, defining what true masculinity is, first of all, and then he goes on to tell us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses and provides sustenance for the true masculine man according to the levels of his masculinity. What we can therefore take away from this narration and what we can understand from it is the very essence of what it means to be a true Muslim man. It shows us what type of traits we need to hold innate to ourselves, and what actions will be the fruit of this as well. A true mu'min, and I'll make a differentiation between a Muslim, a true mu'min man is someone who is just, someone who is kind, someone who is compassionate, and who is forgiving. He does not demote other people and degrade other people to get a sense of authority over them, or to be the alpha male figure which is ruling over them, as some people would say. He's the type of person who will speak kind words to others. He's the type of person who will take care of those around him with his speech, and he will nurture positive environments. He will be that figure that people feel comfortable and happy being around. A true mu'min is responsible, he is hardworking, he is humble and patient and forbearing as well. The Muslim man, the mu'min man, must be the one who stands up for his family and provides for them. He needs to work hard to ensure that they are well cared for, even at the expense of himself. A sensible and well-balanced family, which a Muslim man should be in charge of, is the very foundation of happy life itself. In fact, it is the root of advancing civilizations and societies onwards, because the family is a very closely knit unit in human society. And this nearness, although very positive, can create dangers. It can create friction, it can create conflict, unless each individual in the family, especially the male, is aware of what his duties are and what his rights are. Continuing on, again, a true mu'min man is truthful. He is trustworthy, he is courageous, and he is soft-hearted. And Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali alayhi salam, of course, embodies courageousness. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had planned to migrate from Mecca to Medina, the Quraysh had a plan and conspired to assassinate the Prophet. You'll probably be well aware of the story. So they surrounded his house, intending to kill him as he lay asleep in his bed. But to ensure that the Prophet would escape safely and be safe from this assassination, Imam Ali alayhi salam volunteered to sleep in the bed of the Holy Prophet, knowing full well that these assassins who came would end up killing him rather than the Holy Prophet. Now, this act that Imam Ali takes, without a second thought, this act of self-sacrifice shows his courageousness and his unwavering loyalty to the Prophet. And this is one of the key points I want to mention. The courageousness was not him simply doing the act for the sake of it. The courageousness was the fact that he was ready to sacrifice everything that he had for his prophet, for his leader, for his brother. This act of taking away the importance from himself and placing it on those who are around him, that is a real masculine act. That is a real courageous act. And again, it also showcases the trustworthiness of Imam Ali alayhi salam as a trustworthy figure, an individual who the Prophet could rely on. The Prophet entrusted him with this dangerous mission, knowing that Imam Ali would fulfill it without any hesitation, without any concerns, without any objections. He could rely on this figure. The true mu'min man is the one who honors women. And this is a very crucial point when it comes to masculinity, in terms of honoring and protecting women. When Rasulullah states to us, observe your duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in respect to women and treat them well, Imam Ali, again, he is the epitome of this saying. He follows through on the Prophet's words so perfectly all the time. One of the famous narrations we have, which talks about Imam Ali and Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, salamullahi alayha, talks about the way that they would divide their household chores, for example. So Imam Ali would go and take care of the work outside of the house, such as collecting firewood to keep warm in the evenings and providing for the family, quite a physical task. Whereas Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra used to manage the domestic tasks inside the house. He would grind flour and bake bread. And when Imam Ali saw the physical toll that was being exerted on Sayyidah Fatima from all of this work, he offered without a shadow of a doubt and without a hesitation to go and help her with these tasks, to help her with the chores inside the house. He showed his compassion and he showed his respect for her well-being as a woman and as his wife. And it's not just in the household of Imam Ali alayhi salam that he showcases respect for women. He extends this respect and honor for women in society as a whole, society at large. He emphasized the importance of treating women with kindness and respect. He says women are Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's trusts upon you, so do not hurt them and do not put pressure on them. Of course, in recent times as well, the representatives of our awaited Imam, our ulama and our maraja have also exemplified this type of behavior. And these are the true masculine figures as well as the Ahlul Bayt that we should be looking up to. For example, we have Sayyid Imam Khomeini. The way that his wife narrates how their family life used to be is truly beautiful. His wife narrates the following. She said that on the whole, I have to say that Imam did not consider sweeping, washing dishes, or even washing my children's clothes as part of my responsibilities. If out of necessity I sometimes did do these things, then he would get upset. He would consider this as a type of unjust dealing towards me. Imam Khomeini, for example, went further than what his duty was. He went beyond what was, obligatory for him, and he did something which truly brought him up in the levels in terms of the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how he would be viewed as a figure, as an individual. He went further than what was required of him to preserve and to honor his wife and to preserve and honor the women folk who resided in his house as well. And then finally, continuing on from the hadith which we mentioned earlier, a true mu'min man will control and lower his desires and control his impulses. He will fulfill the needs of others before himself. He will continually refine his intellect and gain knowledge, improve his character, and avoid any undignified behavior and sinful deeds. Because doing so and refraining from all of these negative vices and sins will mean that one can get closer in terms of emulating the character of the Holy Prophet and his righteous family to the best of his ability. Now, one of the most important things about masculinity is how it is utilized. One of the examples I just want to bring forward is regarding Amir al-Mu'mineen and his physical strength, because his physical strength was unparalleled. Not just in physical strength, but in courage as well. His bravery, for example, in the battlefield is legendary. We have the battles of Badr, Uhud, Khaybar. And for example, during the Battle of Khaybar, we have Amir al-Mu'mineen conquering what was seemingly an impenetrable fortress, lifting up a gate that nobody else could in order to demonstrate his strength. However, when we look at this concept of strength in relation to masculinity and as an example of masculinity, unfortunately, the majority of people, even amongst Muslims, seem to approach this in the wrong way. Imam Ali's physical strength was never used for oppression or for personal gain. It was always directed towards defending the haqq, towards defending the truth, towards defending justice, and to defending the vulnerable people who surrounded him as well. And what this shows us is that true masculinity doesn't mean that you just have strength full stop. Because being a masculine man doesn't mean that you are physically strong and that's it. It doesn't mean that you can go to the gym and you can, bench press 120 kilograms. Yeah, fair enough, that is impressive, I'll give you that. But all that does is makes you physically strong. It doesn't make you masculine. To be masculine is a whole other story. It's a whole other concept than this physical strength alone. To be masculine in relation to strength involves using one's strength for noble purposes, not for domination or for exploitation over others. Did Amir al-Mu'mineen use his strength to assert dominance in gatherings or social settings? Was he a physically strong individual simply to deter people from fighting him? No. He was physically strong in order to defend the people who were around him, to defend the Holy Prophet in conquests and battles, to protect his family, and to enable and further the aims and goals of Islam, the religion. So true masculinity requires both physical and moral courage to accompany it. Because whilst physical strength is important and very much encouraged in Islam, it is meaningless without the moral integrity of knowing how to use it as well, and knowing how to use it justly and fairly. Imam Ali exemplifies this balance perfectly. He shows that a man's worth is not measured just by his ability to dominate others, but by his commitment to furthering the concepts of justice and truth alongside them. And I know I've been taking up quite a lot of time, so I'll be as quick as possible. I just want to pose a question as an example to people. to demonstrate this misconstrued concept of masculinity amongst young people today in our communities and in the countries as well. Now, let's say that you look around today and you have two groups of individuals, two groups of men. Group one is a bunch of guys who have very nice cars. They post on Instagram when they're at the gym, showing themselves off, always in nice restaurants, taking pictures of it, flashy clothes, flashy cars, they go clubbing, etc. This is the first group of people. Second group of people is a group of guys who don't use social media to flaunt themselves or their wealth. They go out on the weekend to help at food banks, and their idea of a night out is going to the masjid, going to the Husayniyah. Now, without thinking, realistically, without thinking, if I ask you the question, which group is more masculine? Unfortunately, a lot of people will say the first group. Why? Because this is the way that our societies tend to define masculinity. Our societies, I mean, in the West. But this is a perception that we need to try and detach ourselves from amongst our communities. Not the Western secular communities, because their cultural war machine is quite significant and intense. But amongst our Western Muslim youth communities, we need to try and detach ourselves from this type of, expectation of what masculinity really is. Going back to this scenario with the two groups of individuals, I have another question to pose. If Amir al-Mu'mineen Imam Ali was with us today, present, which group would he be part of? Would he be part of group one or group two? It's obvious that he would be part of group two. So we've spent this entire discussion talking about how Imam Ali is a masculine figure. And so he would fall into group two, the group which most people would not define as the masculine group. But Imam Ali would often spend his nights in prayer and his days serving the poor. In Bahar al-Anwar, we have multiple narrations that he used to carry bags of food on his back to distribute to needy families to ensure that they had enough to eat and that they wouldn't go hungry. During battle, the Imam comes out with statements such as, "I will not fight them until they come and fight me." Masculinity is this: it is humility, it is patience, it is nothing but love. It is nothing but love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Masculinity is often associated with aggression, associated with dominance. But Imam Ali shows us the opposite of this, that true strength lies in the compassion of someone and the mercy of someone. Because a man who can forgive and show kindness even to his enemies demonstrates a much higher level of spiritual and emotional maturity than these so-called macho men who just want to go and fight everyone who challenges them. And this is the best example which counters the stereotype that masculinity is about toughness and instead emphasizes that true masculinity can be found through empathy and through humanity, as exemplified by Amir al-Mu'mineen. Inshallah, this was a beneficial session for us, which opened up a slightly more fresh perspective on the view of masculinity through the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And to finish, I just want to end with a quick hadith by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam again. Imam Sadiq says that there are 5 things which are as I say, meaning these are absolute truth. First, greedy people have no comfort. Jealous people have no pleasure. Rulers are not loyal. Fools will not become masters. And liars are not manly people. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant victory to the mu'mineen and the madlumeen and for all of the shuhada, especially these days in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and Parachinar. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha after Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.